Anyway, the good and bad of the tournament. Let's reflect on it now in the company of one of our excellent European regulars here on talkSPORT. Kevin Hatchard joins us. Hi, Kev.
Afternoon, gents. How are we?
Good, thank you. So overall, did it live up? If you're giving it marks out of 10, were your expectations high going in, and did they live up to them or live down to them?
No, I think a solid 8. I think, Germany, a great host nation, if you ignore the train and tram part of it. I think it was very much a tournament where fans were at the forefront. I think we saw that with Turkey, for example. Felt like they were co-hosts at one stage. They had got such good support across Germany because there is such a big Turkish population in Germany. I think the host nation did well, which was important for the tournament. As you guys have said, Spain were the best team. They won all of their games, which is, quite a tough thing to do, really. And I think they showed the depth of their squad when they were able to make all those changes for the final game against Albania and still win it. So that was a real triumph of their attacking idea of Luis de la Fuente's coaching. I do wonder, actually, whether it'll slightly change how people view the requirements for being an international manager. I think sometimes people get drawn into this idea that Jurgen Klopp's suddenly going to appear or Pep Guardiola. It's just not realistic. It just doesn't happen generally in international football. And if you look at big name coaches like Fabio Capello, Sven-Göran Eriksson, who, got to quarterfinals, didn't get further. Capello, it didn't work out. You look at De La Fuente, he's a company man. This is a guy who's been involved with the FA in Spain for a long, long time and has managed to, win at youth level a couple of times and has now won at senior level. So, it doesn't have to be a huge name to actually succeed at international level.
We were talking earlier on about the prospect of the FA going down the De La Fuente route, as they did with Gareth, with Lee Carsley and him stepping up from the 21s to take over the team. And this won't hurt Carsley's chances, what's happened with Spain. But what sort of pushback was there at the time when they gave it to De La Fuente? What did the Spanish public make of that?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of trepidation, and I think that was enhanced by the fact that they made a bad start in terms of the qualifiers. Remember, they lost to Scotland, and deservedly so. Had that really poor performance at Hampden. There was all of the furore around Luis Rubiales as well, the former president of the Spanish FA, who'd been a big supporter of De La Fuente. And when the whole Jenny Hermoso incident at the Women's World Cup final blew up, and he was under huge pressure, Rubiales, to resign. Rubiales had that speech where he said, "I will not resign," and it was very odd, and he kind of screamed that into the microphone, and there were a lot of people in the room who applauded him, and one of them was De La Fuente. He then apologized for that and said he was put in a really weird position, and he said it was the wrong thing to do. So on and off the field, he had some hurdles to get over, but gradually he's been able to really get the team playing how he wanted. They had a really important 7-1 win away in Georgia, where Lamine Yamal became the youngest ever scorer for Spain. Nico Williams scored that night as well. And that really was when you started to get this idea that this Spain team could be a bit different. It was kind of all the possession football, but with an important twist.
Was it a young man's tournament? I mean, we saw some of the older players like Kane struggling, injury or whatever, Ronaldo, whereas we've seen some great young stars appear.
Yeah, 100%. I think we obviously talk about Lamine Yamal. Nico Williams is still young. I actually think part of it is to do with the fact that some of these young guys are the only ones who could deal with the schedule, because the schedule is crazy at the moment. And I think there were a lot of players who didn't look fully fit, who looked as though they were struggling to find their best form. Antoine Griezmann looked like a broken man, I thought, at times. And we've seen him be so influential for France so many times, and yet just couldn't get into the games. They tried him in different positions, just wasn't happening. And I do wonder if you're going to see that more and more. And there's an irony, really, that FIFA have come up with this expanded Club World Cup. Down the track, is that going to actually damage their main product, which is the World Cup? Because you're going to have players who just will not get a break. And I understand what people will say. They're paid millions. Yes, I understand that. But it doesn't change the fact that if you've got nothing left in your legs, you've got nothing left in your legs. And it's the mental side of it as well.
No,
yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely right.
Who were the biggest disappointments for you in the tournament, nation-wise, Kevin?
I think Italy. I think that's fair to say. I had reservations about them going into the tournament only because Luciano Spalletti, in the grand scheme of things, hadn't had a huge amount of time to bed down what's quite a complex tactical idea. You know, the way you got Napoli playing doesn't just happen overnight. You know, winning that Scudetto, it took a while to get that going. And he seemed quite frustrated, I thought. He was very tetchy in some of the press conferences, had to apologise for some of his behaviour. And, you know, they've lost some top players as well. You can't lose Bonucci and Chiellini and expect to be, you know, just as defensively solid. So I thought they really struggled. I was disappointed for Ukraine, not by Ukraine, because I think that's harsh. But I think, you know, considering how they performed in qualifying, considering how some of their players have done for Shakhtar in European football, given the unbelievable situation they find themselves in, you know, they made a bad start against Romania and never quite were able to recover. So I was expecting more from them. But what was great was that we had some teams that really overperformed. Georgia, I thought, was sensational. Showed real adventure. They are a counter-attack team, but when they hit you on the counter, they really hit you with numbers. And it wasn't just all about Kvaratskhelia. Nikotadze played well. Mamardashvili, the goalkeeper. Turkey, we've mentioned, I thought they were terrific as well. So it was really good to see Slovakia as well. I know in the end, England, you know, got them, but they were close. And I thought they played really well too.
France is an interesting one. We're talking about a manager having the shelf life in Gareth Southgate of 8 years and feeling like it's time for change. But Deschamps has kept his job despite them going out, and he's sort of 12 years. I know he
did win a World Cup.
He has won World Cups, but still, you know, you sometimes feel there is a kind of shelf life for a manager. Again, there was some extra, you know, circumstances around Mbappe and stuff. But what did you make of their tournament, and do you think it's the right move by the French to keep him on?
I can understand why they have. The way that they've put it, the French FA, is that semi-finals was, you know, that's kind of base camp. That's what they would target, and then you see what happens after that. So they felt that he performed well. But there are real echoes of what's going on with Gareth Southgate right now, because there will always be people, and I understand it, there'll always be people who look at the talent and go, well, surely you should be doing better. But his record at major tournaments is, you know, there's no getting away from it. It's outstanding. Yes, he's only won one major tournament, but he's got to a Euro final. He's got to a World Cup final, back-to-back World Cup finals. Zinedine Zidane is always going to be linked with that post. Whether he'll get fed up of waiting, we'll see. But there does seem to be staunch backing for Deschamps. I just wonder whether he's going to have to be a little less intransigent, because he was quite happy to thumb his nose at the media, as is often the case, and say, well, if you don't like the football, watch something else. But I think in the end, that pressure does build and build and build.
I just wonder if managers can ever change. I mean, you know, if Gareth stayed on and thought, you know, I'm going to try a different approach, but they don't, do they? You coach the way you are and what you believe in.
Yeah.
It's not suddenly going to change, is he, really?
We've said goodbye to a few players at this time. Thomas Muller has announced that he's retiring from international football. Not a massive surprise. I wonder if we'll see Cristiano Ronaldo back at the World Cup. What do you think?
Definitely. not just the next World Cup, the one after. In Saudi Arabia, he's definitely going to play in that one. He'll be about 50.
He might still be going when he's 50, yeah, exactly. I do think he's a problem in the sense that there's no doubting what an incredible career he's had. There's no doubting that he's a living legend of the game. That's all, you know, undeniable. But what I was a little bit surprised about was the nature to which, the extent to which Roberto Martinez seemed quite slavish to the idea of him. My feeling going into the tournament was that Ronaldo was going to start games, but it was going to be 60, 70 minutes, then he gets replaced. You bring on Gonzalo Ramos or Diogo Jota or whoever it happens to be to play him for 120 against Slovenia and then do the same thing against France when his mobility clearly wasn't having the effect that you'd expect him to have, the impact you'd expect him to have. I thought was really surprising. And it did feel, you know, whether you blame him for this or not, that it became a little bit all about him. And I actually wonder whether of all the teams there, Portugal might be the ones who look at it the most and think there was an opportunity missed there.
Well, Kevin, good to talk to you. We will catch up with you, I'm sure, as we build up to the start of the season. It's only, 32 days till the Premier League gets underway?
Right, yeah.
Blimey. Cheers, Kevin.
Where's the beach?
Yeah.
Show me the beach.
Show you the beach. Yeah, go. Quickly, book a flight, for goodness sake. Okay, yeah. Cheers, Kevin. Thanks.
Cheers, gents.
Kevin Hatchard there, one of our top European experts here on talkSPORT, reflecting on the tournament as a whole. Well, while the Euros has been going on, so has the Copa America. And it came down to a Colombia-Argentina final yesterday. Argentina won 1-0, but that's really not the story. It's what happened off the field that's made all the headlines today. Brian Schroeder, who we chat to about football over in the States, will be joining us. There was all sorts of problems in and around the stadium.
Yeah, just looking at these Argentine fans on Twitter. USA is not ready to organise Copa America, neither anything. It's a total disaster. No security, nothing.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.